Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/credit card.
Gretchen, I have always loved water slides.
Mm-hmm.
And at Great Wolf Lodge, you can take your whole family on an unforgettable adventure with lots of water slides.
They've also got high-flying ropes courses, miniature golf, climbing walls, mini bowling, virtual reality rooms, and a massive arcade. That's just some of the things that everybody in the whole family can do. So bring your pack together and wolf out. Learn more at greatwolf.com, greatwolf.com. Book now and strengthen your pack at Great Wolf Lodge.
Lemonada.
Hello and welcome to Happier, a podcast where we talk about ideas and strategies for making our lives happier, healthier, more productive, and more creative. This week, we'll talk about a phenomenon that I've decided to call the rule of more, and we'll share lots of secrets of adulthood from listeners. I'm Gretchen Rubin, a writer who studies happiness, good habits, human nature, secrets of adulthood. I'm in New York City, and joining me today from Los Angeles is my sister Elizabeth Kraft, who has infinite interest in secrets of adulthood.
That's me, Elizabeth Kraft, a TV writer and producer living in LA. And yes, Gretch, can't get enough of those. Thank you to all the listeners for giving us their secrets of adulthood. We need them.
Absolutely. Before we launch in, I want to remind everybody I am going to go on a tour in April. I am so excited. Starting April 1st, 2025. You can find tour details, pre-order information, and more about the book at happiercast.com/secrets. I'm going to a bunch of places: Washington, D.C., Boston, Lexington, Kentucky, Bloomington, Tulsa, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Miami, New York City, Kansas City, of course, my hometown. And as always, if you pre-order, that is a huge help. Pre-orders really do matter a tremendous amount for a book. And so if you're inclined to buy the book, pre-ordering really does make a difference.
Yes, I pre-ordered mine, as you know.
And Elizabeth, you and I both know to pre-order anytime there's a book that we want.
It's a great way to support the author.
It's a great way to support the author. So this week, the Try This at Home suggestion is something, it's sort of a phrase that I've come up with. And the Try This at Home suggestion is to consider the rule of more.
Yes. So, Gretch, what is the rule of more?
Well, Elizabeth, in a way, you inspired the rule of more because something you said connected in my mind to one of my Secrets of Adulthood in my Secrets of Adulthood book. And you said, the more I write, the more I write. So explain a little bit about that.
Yes. And by the way, I'm sure I'm not the first person who said this, but it's something that I've just been thinking over and over lately because I feel like since Sarah and I started our Substack newsletter, where I'm writing a newsletter every week, I'm having an easier time writing other things.
Right.
And so it just has been ringing in my mind that the more I write, the more I write. The more I do it, the easier it is to do it.
Right.
So I've just been saying that a lot.
Well, I was reminded of one of my Secrets of Adulthood. And my Secret of Adulthood, it takes this different look at that phenomenon because my Secret of Adulthood is more roads, more traffic. Now, this is kind of counterintuitive, right? And so what I explain in Secrets of Adulthood is, as New York City grew, its traffic grew. So urban planner Robert Moses built more roads. But in a counterintuitive phenomenon called induced demand, as more roads were added, more people drove their cars. So the city's traffic got worse. This phenomenon is literally true, and it also suggests a deeper truth. Often when we give ourselves more of what we crave, we don't feel satisfied. We want even more. And so what I'm realizing is the rule of more works for the positive and the negative. So if what you want to do is write, the more you write, the more you write. But it could be also that the more you doom scroll, the more you doom scroll.
Yes. Well, on the positive side, it's definitely true for reading, right?
Oh, yeah.
The more we read, which is good for our hashtag read 25 and 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. And many people have said that as they're making a point of reading more in 25, they're reading even more than 25 minutes because reading more leads to reading more.
Right. And it's induced demand because then you go through books faster. So then you need another book.
Yes.
And then you realize how good a book is. So you're racing through it. And so the more you do it, the more you do it. The more you read, the more you read. You know, and I'm reminded of a rule that I learned as a parent of young children, which is that well-rested children sleep better. Good sleep means more good sleep. And I remember somebody saying like, well, listen, you might be tempted to think, well, I'll have my child skip a nap because I really want them to sleep very soundly tonight. But actually, that's not true. Children who aren't well-rested don't sleep as well. And it's that well-rested children sleep better. The more we sleep, the more we sleep. Same with exercise. We get used to it. Our body's kind of accommodated. And so if you're in the habit of regular exercise, you kind of want to be in the habit of regular exercise. You start getting fidgety and your body feels uncomfortable if you're not doing what you usually do. And so the more you exercise, the more you exercise. And as you say, it becomes more part of your routine. It gets easier in that way as well.
Yes. Well, Gretch, this is why you always say you like to do things every day.
I am an all or nothing kind of person. I'm an abstainer when it comes to strong temptation. And I do really love to do things every day. I go to the Met every day. I watercolor every day. I read the War and Peace every day. And I think that's why. It's because the more I do it, the more I do it. The more I watercolor, the more I watercolor. It just starts being part of what I do. But here's the thing. It's good to go to the Met. It's good to watercolor. It's good to read and write and read War and Peace. But it's also true for less desirable behavior. I think when we fall into bad practices, they can take over. Like, Elizabeth, I remember when you were going through your whole soul-sucking app problem with games.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. The more Candy Crush I played, the more I played.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Induced demand.
And you talk about this with sugar, when I think sugar actually has a physical reason why this is true.
Well, and again, I'm an abstainer, so just giving it up altogether seemed easier to me and has proved to be easier. And one of the reasons that I gave it up when I first started years ago now, I noticed that the more I ate sugar, the more I wanted sugar. And I thought, well, maybe if I just gave it up, I would stop wanting it. And that is exactly what happened. It was the less I ate, the less I ate. And I just think that this is something that it seems counterintuitive somehow.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people feel like, well, I'll get sated or I will have had enough. But then you're like, okay, well, what about the more you spend, the more you spend? I think a lot of times it grows on itself.
Yes. And as you said, there's a literal and a theoretical meaning to this. Like the more you spend, let's say the more you spend on a house, likely the more you're going to spend taking care of the house in a literal sense.
Yeah, I have a secret of adulthood for that. It's something like more lawns, more mowing.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But then also maybe the more you spend, the more you feel like you want to have a certain lifestyle.
The more you're just in the habit or you're used to having that feeling and you crave that feeling of like acquisition. Or I'll just get it now instead of worrying about putting it on my list or whatever. But anyway, this is just something because, The Secret of Adulthood about Robert Moses tied in my mind with this observation that you were having, the more you write, because it doesn't necessarily seem like something that would be true, but I feel like it is true. But this is just sort of like a new label I've slapped on it. So I'm really curious to hear from listeners. Does this ring true to you? Does this resonate with you? Do you feel like exactly the opposite is true? Because, of course, the opposite of a profound truth is also true. So let us know if you do try this at home or ponder this and how applying the rule of more works for you. Especially, of course, you want to use it in the positive to get more of the things you want in your life. Let us know on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook. Drop us an email at podcast@GretchenRubin.com. Or as always, you can go to the show notes. This is happiercast.com/526 for everything related to this episode.
Coming up, we have a cleaning hack. But first, this break.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It is so important that we all have a support system. Gretch, you're a huge support for me, as our mom and dad. We've got a great supportive family. Nonetheless, there are times in my life when I have really turned to a therapist to give me even more advice and support. Therapy can be a source of support for any area in your life. Sometimes you just want to shift the focus from doing it all to knowing we're better when we ask for help.
BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Gretchen Rubin to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gretchen Rubin. Okay, listen, the happiness hack this week, it was perfectly timed because I had just been talking to a friend of mine who was very annoyed because he is a super kind of neat person, and his wife and his 2 children do not share that same interest in maintaining clutter. And he was talking about how hard it was and to badger everybody into doing it. And he was always trying to point out, oh, it's just so much nicer and it doesn't take time. And if everybody just put their things away. And then we got this email from Teresa, which I thought had a really, really useful suggestion for him. And I told him about it in my happiness bully way. I challenged him to try it this weekend. So I will see how it works for him, but let's hear how it worked for Teresa.
Yeah, she said, my husband and I both work full time and have 2 girls, ages 8 and almost 5. I really struggle with feeling that I can't keep up with all of the clutter and cleaning that should be happening throughout the week, leaving me feeling overwhelmed and grouchy by the weekend. I do pay for house cleaning help every 2 weeks, so this isn't so much about deep cleaning than just getting things picked up. So I started what we call Family 15. All 4 of us have to clean together for 15 minutes. We decide what each of us want to tackle, and I set a timer for 15 minutes. When the timer goes off, we are done. Perfection is not achieved in 15 minutes, but it's amazing how much better everything looks after that short time. This has worked even better than expected with the kids. They seem to like that it's just a set amount of time and we are all doing work together rather than me just telling them to go clean their rooms, for example. We aim to do our Family 15 4 times a week. Even if we only accomplish 3 times, when you add it up, it's still 3 to 4 hours of time spent cleaning each week. It's been a real boost for me because I don't feel like it's all on my plate come Saturday morning to either tackle it myself or cajole my family into helping me. Great idea.
This is a great idea. I wish I'd had this for my book, Outer Order, Inner Calm, where I talk about things like the 1-minute rule, because it's this idea that you can do these short bursts and get a lot more done than you think. But I love this idea that everybody's doing it together, because then you feel less resentment. Any one person isn't like, well, why am I doing this? Because we're all doing this together. And it's kind of a fun family activity.
And I love that she's like, when the timer goes off, we're done.
Yes.
So
yes.
Perfection isn't the goal. And I think that helps a lot, because I think when you're doing that, it can feel like an endless task. But if you know it's going to end in 15 minutes, it's easier.
Well, and tidy areas tend to stay tidier and messy areas tend to get messier. And so as you're doing this regularly, it might be that things just stay tidier too.
Yes.
But this reminds me of Jamie, because Jamie does like to have things very picked up. And he'll often say, like when things are all kind of disordered, he'll say, let's have a quick tidy up. And that means everybody get on their feet and just tidy up. But we never did it with a timer or anything. But it is good where you're just like, nobody's doing anything big, but it's like, hang up your coat. If you've got a whole bunch of books out, put them away. Somebody load the dishwasher.
Yeah.
There's dog toys everywhere. We always have like dog toys everywhere. It doesn't take any time to put them away. It makes a huge difference. But if you just leave them out, they'll just stay out.
Yes. Thank you, Teresa. Great idea.
And I'm so curious to hear if my friend Mike, if it works for his family. So we'll hope. And now for listener roundup. We got so many great secrets of adulthood, so we want to just blast through these to share as many as we can from listeners.
Yes, these are so great.
So with Secrets of Adulthood, just reading through these, I think some of these are proverbs or pieces of folk wisdom that I've heard many times before. In my book, Secrets of Adulthood, they're all original to me. They're the way I phrase them. And so it's sort of like quotation by Gretchen Rubin. But here, I think a lot of people were just passing along Secrets of Adulthood that they'd learned from wherever. And that's great because the Secret of Adulthood can come to us in many different ways and many different forms.
Yes, Sally says, you can't fix other people.
So true. Melanie, if you have to do something every day or regularly, find a way to enjoy it. Good advice.
Elizabeth says, what you put in is what you get out. My dad used to say this all the time, and he was extremely right.
Seabrews 1508 says, not my circus, not my monkeys. Love this phrase for so many situations. If I remember correctly, I think that's a proverb from Poland, but many people like that proverb.
Maylin says, just because things could have been different doesn't mean they'd be better.
Michelle says, I never feel like doing the spin bike. Never. Usually glad halfway through and definitely after.
I relate to that. Liz says, our family motto is always carry a book and a sweater.
Amanda says, always ride the carousel.
Well, that's whimsical. Laura says, don't attend every argument you are invited to.
Yes. Jennifer says, always take the high road. There's less traffic there.
That's funny. Lucky says, everything in moderation. That's a very popular proverb.
But then for me, because I am such an all or nothing person, I say, do nothing in excess, not even moderation. Miranda says, it's rarely worth correcting someone. That is very interesting. I do have a strong urge to correct, I have to say, and it's rarely worth correcting someone.
Gil says, if it's not an immediate yes, it's a no.
Beautiful by Design says you can't have everything at the same time, but you can have everything in time. That's beautifully said.
Nana says, follow a routine, not your mood. Ooh, that's for you, Gretch.
Better than before. My book about habit change. That is a major theme. Susie says, always check for toilet paper before you sit down. This is a metaphor and also not. That's true. It's good advice on both levels. Works on two levels.
Just said, you cannot be on top of all the things all the time.
Good to remember. Oh, Galson says, sleep begets sleep. This is the rule of more.
Yes. Kate says, it's always better in the morning after a good night's rest. And you are the lead role in your own movie. Everyone else is starring in their own. That is so true. She says, when you worry about something that hasn't happened, you worry twice. That's me. And then finally, the laundry will never, ever be done.
That's good to remember. Some tasks are never done.
Yes.
Liz says, I tell my students the secret to life is to practice something you want to get good at. Oh, that's like work worth doing.
Kate says, sometimes you make the right decision. Sometimes you must make the decision right. Never heard that.
Marlene said, my secret of adulthood is everything is a lesson. I tell myself this message multiple times a day. That's a good way to reframe. Everything is a lesson.
Charlie says, a favorite is by Becky Higgins, who's a scrapbooker. She always says, cultivate a good life and record it. Well, that's you, Gretch. What do you like to say, that you're a keeper of memories?
Treasure house of happy memories.
Yes. She says, I love looking back at the scrapbooks I created for my kids. So many experiences and memories I have forgotten about. It creates a sense of joy in me to remember. I do digital scrapbooks now and am working on recording wisdom and stories. We never know when our last day is. I want to leave something behind for my kids. I even created a book of wisdom for them when I turned 50, something for them to refer to if ever I'm not here and they face different situations in their lives and want motherly advice.
Well, this reminded me of my Secrets of Adulthood book. And that book actually has blank pages with lines at the end so that everybody can add their own Secrets of Adulthood. But it's interesting that she felt this same impulse, which is, boy, I've learned all these things the hard way. I really want to compile them and so that I can give them to somebody. If I can't be there in person, I still want them to have the benefit of everything I've learned.
Yes.
Terry said, knowledge comes from books. Wisdom comes from experience. I like to use that with the college students I work with. It's good advice.
Leanne says, GMO, good enough, move on. Goes along with the Voltaire quote, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, which we say all the time.
I've never heard of GMO. I like that. Janet says, the saying from Jonathan Winters, if your ship doesn't come in, swim out to it. This quote made me join a dating service in 1994. I met my husband and we were married in 1995, 30 years married now. Oh, I like that.
Catherine says, two of my favorites. It's easier to keep up than catch up.
Love it.
And better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Arain has several. Once the text or email takes up the whole screen, it's best to speak directly. Oh, good advice. Be prepared, even if you don't know exactly what you're preparing for. That's a very Eisenhower idea. There are very few true emergencies. Most situations can benefit from a pause to consider your response. Good advice. You don't have to have an opinion about everything. And one my physician shared with me in my daughter's early weeks, stay calm. That sounds like what our mother says to me all the time. She always is saying to me, stay calm. It's good advice.
Yes, you and I are quite reactionary.
We're high strung, I would say.
Karen says from Maya Angelou, do the best you can till you know better, then do better.
Oh.
She says it stops a lot of regrets of the if I knew then what I know now variety.
That's great. Callie writes, people show you how they like to be treated by how they treat you. Say someone you love always buys you experience days rather than actual gifts. It's likely that that is their idea of a gift. That is a great idea. That's very true of the 5 love languages as well.
Yes. Patty says you can control the choice you make, but not the consequence of that choice.
My father-in-law talks about that a lot. Brian said, my mom has a few that make me laugh. Look with your eyes, not with your mouth. And once you stop, that's it. She'd say the first when we asked where something was instead of actually looking for it. And the second about getting through the day. If she sat down, she might not get back up. So she just kept moving. That's funny.
Carmen says, I have 2 that come to mind. 1, you never regret reading the manual. 2, you don't need to feel bad about things you don't need to feel bad about. Helps me with regrets about making choices or not doing something perfectly.
Jennifer says, don't ruin an apology with an excuse. That is good to remember.
Yes. And finally, Tammy says, here are some of mine. She's got a bunch. Self-care is 100% guilt-free for me. Some is good, more is not necessarily better. Goes with booze, food, TV, and French fries. Stop doing things that hurt you. She said, the more I read, the better I feel. You can control your bedtime, but not your wake time. Go to bed now. Very true. She says, you can't do everything, but everyone can do something. It says, if you don't mess with politics, it will mess with you. Changing the world requires individual and collective actions simultaneously. And she says, know what you know. Listen to your gut. Apologize to your kids when you make mistakes. They will respect you more. And she says, a timer will get you moving. Keep one handy. You love your spouse and you are on the same team. Act accordingly. Good reminder to all of us. And finally, she said, when people act out thinking they are having a hard time takes the sting out of their behavior, especially when you remember you also have a hard time sometimes too.
Oh, well, these were so interesting and helpful.
Yes.
They were so thought-provoking, such good insight and knowledge about how to deal with the complexities of dealing with life.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody, for sending those in.
Coming up, we've got a question from somebody who wants advice about office life. But first, this break.
Meet JLab. Headphones as versatile as you. Work out, jam out, or tune out. Find the perfect fit with JLab. JLab's diverse collection of headphones has something for everyone and every moment. Think headphones in a million different colors and styles with features you actually want. That's JLab. Look for the blue box at retailers everywhere or shop jlab.com and use code Lemonada15 for 15% off your order today.
Gretchen, I have always loved water slides. And at Great Wolf Lodge, you can take your whole family on an unforgettable adventure. It's a world of fun all under one roof with lots of water slides. There's also wave pools, depending on where you go, lazy rivers, water basketball, and every water park is always a warm 84 degrees, just the way I like it.
Along with the amazing water slides, which range from the high-speed thrill rides to the toddler-friendly slopes, they've also got high-flying ropes courses, miniature golf, climbing walls, mini bowling, virtual reality rooms, and a massive arcade. That's just some of the things that everybody in the whole family can do. And best of all, it's just a short drive away. So bring your pack together and wolf out. Learn more at greatwolf.com, greatwolf.com. Book now and strengthen your pack at Great Wolf Lodge. And now for a listener question. This is an intriguing one.
Yes, this comes from Beth. She says, I recently retired from teaching, and while I have enjoyed my career, I still feel I have much to offer. As a result, I have taken on a position in a small office. This is my first experience in an office environment, and I am eager to make a smooth transition. I was wondering if you or your listeners could offer any advice on adapting to office life. Specifically, I would appreciate suggestions on good habits to cultivate, bad habits to avoid, and any other tips that could help me be more effective in this new role.
So exciting, Beth. Good luck.
Yes.
That's an atmosphere of growth, taking on a whole new role. My general suggestion is to start the way you want to begin. So if you want to go for a walk every day at lunch, do that right away. If you want to walk out the door at 6:30, you want to do that right away. These habits start to form as soon as we start a new routine. And so I think it's really good to think about it in advance and think, well, what do I want this to look like? And really start doing that from the beginning.
That's great advice. Something everyone in the office will appreciate is if you clean up after yourself.
Yes. Another thing is you want to reveal parts of yourself too. Like if you're going to connect with people, you want to talk about what's your favorite TV show or what's your dog's name. Like a way to connect with people is to share things about yourself that can allow other people to feel like they're starting to form friendships with you.
And Gretch, this one can be tough for people, but ask questions if you don't know
Yes.
the answer.
Yes.
So often we
Yes.
don't want to do that.
I know.
I am reminded of the time, my first day ever of temping in college, when they asked me to fax something and I had no idea how to do it. So I just threw the piece of paper in the trash and hoped nothing would ever come of it.
Do you know if anything ever did?
Well, at the end of the day, they told me they wouldn't be needing me tomorrow because I also kept forgetting to tell them who was on the phone. You know, like I forget, I just say telephone and so I had a lot to learn, Gretch.
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, here's one, and I think this is particularly true these days with the way offices are changing, which is don't talk too loudly if you're in a space where other people can hear you, which probably they can, because people can find that very disruptive, and you might not realize that there might be people who are like hard at work, even though they're just sitting out. I think that's something to be aware of. And also interrupting people when they're working. I think sometimes people are not chatty enough because you want to be chatty enough. But then I do think that a way that conflict arises a lot of times is one person, if you're in an open office where people are sort of bumping up against each other, they're not in their own offices. If people feel like you're interrupting them too much, that can be a point of conflict. So you would want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, and then there's a whole issue of food, Gretchen. If you don't want to be doing a whole bunch of snacking that you wouldn't have been doing at your teaching job or at home, make a point of not eating food that you didn't bring in yourself. That's what I started doing at work, and that was very helpful for me. But on the other side of that, Gretchen, I would say don't be an evil donut bringer. Don't think, oh, I'm going to bring in donuts on Friday and like show everybody how excited I am to be here. It may not be appreciated. Now, I will say this. You may be in an office where that is appreciated. If that's the case, go ahead. But you want to know what the atmosphere is before you do that.
Right. Well, I'm sure listeners have advice too. Like if you've had a new person come into the office and you're like, I wish I could just tell this person this thing or whatever. What is good advice or what was helpful to you when you were starting in a new office? Let us know. It's a question that comes up a lot, obviously.
Yes.
And now for Demerits and Gold Stars. Elizabeth, it's an even numbered episode, which means it's your turn to talk about a demerit.
All right, Gretch. My demerit is something I keep doing. It's driving me nuts, which is wearing bad socks when I walk the dogs.
Ah, okay.
So I don't do this if I'm going to Fryman Canyon,
Okay.
but sometimes around the house, I wear socks that aren't great socks, the kinds that'll slip down.
Oh, do not like those kinds of socks.
Yes, and they're fine in my Croc slides, but put a sneaker on those and they immediately come down like under my heel and they're a total pain. And I'll be going to walk the dog and I'll know I'm wearing these socks.
So you've identified, the socks are identified as bad socks.
I know they're bad socks. I know exactly
Okay.
what's going to happen if I wear them to walk the dogs. But I'm just too lazy to go change my socks before I walk the dogs. And then I spend the whole walk either very uncomfortable or stopping and yanking up the socks, which are then like pulling against my toes. I mean,
Yes.
it's just ridiculous.
So what do you think is the solution?
I think probably I need to transition out of those socks. You know, I'm the kind of person like you that never throws away an old t-shirt.
Yeah, right.
I think I have a lot of socks that at one point may have worked and now have lost their, good sockness. And I need to let them go, even if technically, they don't have holes in them.
Right. You could give them away because part of it is like you probably have enough good socks that it's not even like you need to buy new socks.
No.
You just need to wash these socks more often. Like
Yes.
they'll just be in circulation more often.
Exactly.
So in that sense, it's not extravagant. It's just that you're not wearing to shreds
Exactly.
the bad socks.
And sometimes I'll wear the bad socks simply because I want to wear them out more so that I can throw them away.
Right,
It's like I have
right.
an impulse to make a point of wearing them and to save the good ones. So it's a thing.
It's a thing. I get it. I 100% get it.
What is your gold star this week, Gretch?
I want to give a gold star to the designers who design book jackets. I realized how much I love this art form. It was so hard to come up with the cover of Secrets of Adulthood, and I love the cover, and I thought it was such a brilliant solution to how to convey an abstract idea visually. But every time I go into a bookstore, I just love looking at the covers. If I go to a foreign country, I always try to go to a bookstore so I can look at the covers there. I know how hard it is to do something original because I've done enough books now. I know that it's tough because you want something that's distinctive, but it's also familiar enough that people can get a clue about what sort of book it is. Our mother and father have given me a couple books that are all about book jacket design, and I'll just look at them. I just find enormous pleasure. And it's fun to kind of spot trends like, oh, there's certain things where you can really recognize it if you're paying attention. The way some people love album covers.
Yes.
That was a whole art form that some people really loved. I think it's beautiful. I forget why, I was looking up a publisher online and I ended up spending like a half an hour just going paging through all the books that they'd published because it was just so interesting to look at the book jackets. And so I give a gold star to all the people who do this because it's such a very specific thing to do. I remember walking into a bookstore and seeing the cover of Twilight.
Yeah.
Now it's become
So
very
good.
almost trite because so many people have copied it. But when I first saw that, I was like, that book is going to sell 1 million copies because it was such a striking cover at the time.
Yes.
So gold star to the designers of book jackets.
We say don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do.
Oh, we all do. I've bought books just because I love the cover. And the resource for this week. Okay, we are nearing spring cleaning time. And so I have created a guide to my favorite products for getting organized. You can find it in the organization section of my website, happiercast.com/organization. Lots of great things there to help with spring cleaning. And Elizabeth, what are we reading?
I am reading Say Everything, a memoir by Ione Skye.
And I am reading Orbital by Samantha Harvey. And that's it for this episode of Happier. Remember to try this at home. Consider the rule of more. Let us know if you've tried it and if it worked for you.
Thanks to our executive producer, Chuck Reed, and everyone at Lemonada.
Rate us, review us, follow us. And if you enjoyed the podcast, tell your friends first.
Until next week, I'm Elizabeth Kraft.
And I'm Gretchen Rubin. Thanks for joining us. Onward and upward. But so, Elizabeth, you know that when you're in Fryman Canyon, like the stakes are so high, you can't risk having bad socks. It's only the dog walking.
Yes. No, I would never do it at Fryman Canyon.
Well, I remember going on a long hike with a friend and I had bad socks and I had to stop every 3 minutes because it's so annoying to have that feeling. And I'm sure it just drove her bananas to have me constantly fussing with my socks. It's a terrible feeling.
We've all been there.
Mm-hmm. From the Onward Project.
On Death, Sex, and Money, we feature interviews with you, our community of listeners, getting honest about uncomfortable things.
I developed an illness where it isn't safe for me to drive. A friend once said to me, "Sex is like air. You don't think about it until you're not getting enough." This is a similar sort of thing if you just replace sex with driving.
Listen to Death, Sex, and Money wherever you get podcasts.